Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Cool. So, hi everyone. Welcome to day 4. So today our topic are still polynomials, but yesterday we did some our basic operation of polynomials. Today we are going to do some more complicated operations. Before we start our topics, you are going to see this same page for the 4th time. Just want to let some of you who are not familiar with me, trying to get know with me. So these are some fun facts about me. And let me move to today's topic today. So the first topic today we are going to talk about is the evaluation of polynomials. So here we can see there are 2 steps or for evaluating polynomials. Firstly, you are going to simplify the polynomial to its standard form. That's your first step, as we learned yesterday how to simplify the polynomial to its standard form, right? The second step for the evaluation of polynomials would be the substitution, because you want to place the value of the variables into the polynomials so that you can get the value. Okay, so let's see this example here, which is question number 2. So here we can see we got at least 2 polynomials within the parent phrase, right? And what we need to do for the first step is to simplify these polynomials here to a very standard form. So what we are going to do here is, of course, you can see that here is a kind of standard form. So what we are going to do is to deal with this part firstly. So let's see. We got minus 12, right? And we got plus 8a, we got minus 4a squared, right? And then we can directly write down them here. This is the first part, right? And then we can combine them together. So what we can see is that this is the power to the 2, right? And what we can get here is in a squared. This is the power to the 1. We got 2 and 8, which is 10. And lastly, we got this stuff, right? So here we can simplify them to a standardized form. Now, what we are going to do is our second step, which is we can substitute this minus a into these polynomials. So minus a, and we also got minus a here, and this is minus 13. So this is 1, and this is minus 10. This is minus 13, which made it to be minus 22, right? Okay, so this is a very basic form of how you evaluate the polynomials. Now we are going to do some more complicated stuff. So you can see that for question 5, here is no exact value for a exact indeterminate, because you don't know the exact value of A, and you also don't know the exact value of B. You only know a very vague relationship between A and B, and that is A minus 3B, which is equal to 5. So what you can do here is to take this polynomial A minus 3B as a single variable. So let's see, you got a minus 3B here, right? So that means, of course, you can insert this 5 into it, which made it become 2 multiplied by 5 to the power of 2, right? And then what we left here right? Aha, you will say there's nothing related to a minus 3b, right? So what you can do? So let's take a very close look at it, because who is going to take notes for me? Okay, all right, thank you. Yeah, exactly. So actually, you would need to do it to a standard form firstly, which is, for this part, 3b minus a, and let it to be minus a plus 3b, right? So then you put the minus symbol out, that would be minus, you got a paraphrase inside, which is a minus 3b, right? So yeah, that is how you get the first part into it. So thanks for someone who is taking note on my screen. Okay. But well, okay, thank you. You have already cleared that. Okay, all right. So you got also another 5 here. So what you can do is, this part is equal to 15, right? And you get minus 5 for this part, right? And you get minus 15, which made the answer to be 13. So that's the answer for this one. There are some other way to do these questions. So for example, you don't need to do this step, but you can like look at this part as 3b minus a, and you can see how that is kind of reverse as a minus 3b. So that you know they got the same absolute value, right? So let me mark it down as first one. Second one would be a minus 3b. You put an absolute value symbol here, which is equal to 3b minus a, right? So if they got the same absolute value, and you know that they look different, that means because this part is 5, you know that this part is minus 5. So that would be also another way to do it. Okay, we are going to move down to the next one. So for this one, also, you are going to think about how should you take polynomials as single variables. So here, let's firstly write down our polynomials here. Firstly, let's turn it to our standard form. So how should we turn it to the standard form? Minus 6a squared plus 2a plus 5. That is how you write it down. Okay, thank you, Mason, for helping me to figure this out about the first part, but we are going to move to this step later. Okay, so guys, please stop making notes on my screen. Thank you for your help. Okay, all right. So as you see, as Mason noted here, we got another polynomials and we know the value of them, right? So what are some common factors you can think about between this part and this part? So of course, okay, thank you, Paris, and thank you, Mason. Yes, as you have noticed, we got something maybe in common. So let's try to do this side firstly, okay? So let's turn them into, let's do something like, let's put 3 out of it. So for example, we got, so that is how we put, oh, sorry. Wait a moment. Let's put 2. Sorry for my writings here. So that will be this one. And after you put out that 2, it will make it to be this form. And you know that this is not exactly looks same as the left side. So you want to put that minus symbol out of it as well. That will turn it to this form, right? And finally, we got it here because these polynomials can be written as this way. So you find the same things here. Now you can take it as a single variables. So that would be 2, right? So for -2 multiplied by 2 plus 5, right? That would be 1. Okay. So thank you everyone who is making some notes on my screen. But where my screen looks a little bit hard to looking at for me. But anyway, thank you. And let me move to the next question. Okay, so suppose A, B, and C are non-zero real numbers, and A plus B plus C is equal to 0. Aha, so it looks like this is a very important piece of information. Okay, let's keep reading. What are the positive values for this kind of very long polynomials here? Okay, so this is one MC questions, which is the most challenging question for our all of the questions today. So let's say what we can do for our super long polynomials here is to take a close look at it. So we can notice that we got absolute value here, also absolute value here, absolute value here, and here. What we know for the absolute value is that, of course, it must be bigger than 0. It must be positive. Why it cannot be equal to 0? Because we are sitting at the position of denominator. So that is why they cannot be equal to 0. So they must be a positive number. So for all of them, they should be positive. Okay. What is the problem here is that we don't know the relationship between the numerator and the denominator, right? So we cannot exactly make sure what happened here. So let's say, what are some other pieces of information we can get from it? It's here, right? A plus B plus C, which is equal to 0. So let's say if we get A plus B plus C, which is equal to 0, are there any other possibilities that we can guess about whether A, B, and C are positive or negative? So let's say if all of them are positive, is that possible to let it equal to 0? Of course not, right? Because you got no way to add all of the positive numbers here to be 0. The same situation for if all of them are negative numbers. So that is also impossible to do so. So now what we can guess is to try in some other way. So if we want them to be equal to 0, that means we got at least one of them to be positive and the maybe other 2 or 1 to be positive, right? So actually here there will be 2 situations. Let's write it down here. So for the first situation, let's say we got at least 1 less than 0 and other, that means other 2 of them, I mean 2 of the 3, okay? 2 of the 3 variables, okay? Which is positive. The second situation would be we got 2 of them positive. So for these 2 situations, we are going to do them separately. So for the first situation, what we can do here is to try to make some examples. So for example, if we say that we got only 1 negative numbers here, let's say maybe A is positive. So let's say if A is 1, right? B is also positive. And let's say probably C is a negative number. So if we want them to be equal to 0, so B might be -2, right? So yeah, we make it. So this is possible. For our second situation, let's say probably 2 of them larger than 0. So let's say maybe A is that only positive one, and then 2 of them are the negative one. So let's say probably this is a kind of situation. Of course, this is equal to 0. So yeah, this is possible. So let's try to put them this way. So for first situation, we got like A is positive, right? So that means A divided by the absolute value of A, which is also 1. Second stuff for B, which is also 1, right? Because B is positive as we are for this situation. But C is negative. So that means C will turn this division B -1. And finally, what about A multiplied by B and multiplied by C? We got 1 positive, we got 1 positive, and we got 1 negative. That means it must be a negative result for this one. So what we can calculate here is 0 for the first situation. For the second situation, let's try to do the same thing here. Because for the second situation, A is positive, so that must be 0. That must be 1. And then B and C are negative, so what we can get is a -1 and -1. Okay, one last thing is this one, A times B times C. So for this situation, we got A is positive, B is negative, C is negative, so that is positive, right? Because that is positive, we got another positive one here, which make the final result as 0. So for both of the situations, we get 0 here. So that means this one will be the correct answer. Okay. So that's all for today's questions. Do you have any other questions? Please type that in the chat box. Or if you want to check your answer with other questions, you can also type that in the chat box. And one more quick announcement for you. We don't have any activities for the Saturday, which is tomorrow. And we also don't have any problem sets for you for the Sunday. And for the Monday, we are not going to have them as weird. Okay, and we will resume our activity on the next Tuesday. Okay, cool. So let me stop share and stop recording.